We are slightly less than 24 hours away from putting our mental and physical and emotional well-being in a bunch of football people. Let's welcome you into the 2024 Kickoff Show. I'm Mike. He's Vegas Mack. You've seen us not in this form, but welcome in. Vegas Mack, how are you, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm doing well. Can't wait to get this football season underway. Let's go.
The first thing, it's like, why do we put our mental and emotional health in a bunch of guys wearing helmets, crashing into each other at full speeds and pads? But here we are again. I can't wait to find out what happens. A lot of goofy stuff is going to happen, a lot of goofy stuff, fun stuff on the show. But initial thoughts, Mac, what is it like for you as we sit here on Kickoff Eve, if you will?
Well, of course, you always think about your team. How is your team going to do this year? And, for the most part, everybody kind of has a good feeling about their team. I'm not going to mention any teams in particular, but for the most part, you always feel as though you have a pretty good chance of at least making the playoffs. And then that week one comes and reality kind of sets in.
Week one, always a crapshoot. We'll get a little bit more into that as we go. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, you sit here, the build up, we get through the dog days of summer. And now, like, as we're sitting here, like, literally, I feel like a kid on Christmas. I know you do. Everybody does. You're waiting to run down the stairs, and then we get Chiefs and Ravens, and off we run with a little different format this year. A lot of changes, the goofy new kickoff rule that neither one of us like. But your first thoughts in thinking about this season from an AFC standpoint?
Well, obviously, it all starts with the Chiefs. Can they do it once again? Are there too many distractions there, too many changes? That's the main thing. If not them, then who's next in line? Is it the Baltimore Ravens? Is this the year that the Bills finally get to the top? Or is it going to be somebody different? Are we going to see somebody like Miami? Or, I don't know, maybe is there a surprise team in the AFC? Maybe not.
Anybody that's followed us so far on this journey that we've been on, thank you. We appreciate it. Tag a friend, tell a friend. But we're big fans of Miami Mike on this show. You can tell he's been in Miami for a couple of years now with a new look to him. But, like, that's exactly it. It's like you'd be a fool to bet against Patrick Mahomes right now. We'll dive, obviously, into tomorrow night's game a little bit more in detail later. But you talked about one team that, as people have seen by now, your Super Bowl prediction from the AFC, the Baltimore Ravens. And I know that had to pain you a little bit on the inside, but the Ravens are an interesting team. Why did you think finally that the Ravens are going to bust through? Because I have my doubts.
Lamar is pretty good. I just think they're ready for that next step. They were so close last year, and I think those teams, I think it's the progression. It's kind of like the old way it was like in the NBA. I think it's kind of like gone that way in the NFL a little bit too. I think teams kind of work their way up, and then they just need something to break through. And the one thing that they've lacked was a really good, solid running game. And they got that now. They've got a big horse in the backfield that can take care of some of that pressure off of Lamar.
Yeah, talking about horses, Derrick Henry. I wonder how much he's got left in the tank. We know how running backs get when they get a little up there in age. But the NFC side, I think, to me is more compelling because I think the weirdest part about that is I already feel like I know what's going to happen in the AFC, and we haven't even put foot to the ball yet. But on the NFC, it's like, well, we know the Niners are a wagon, but we know the history of getting back to a Super Bowl, just the hangover after a Super Bowl. So is Detroit ready? Apparently you and TJ think so. I don't necessarily. The Packers, like, I'm not in love with love. Like, show me over the course of a whole year, because people forget with how they finished the year last year that he really didn't play well until Thanksgiving when he cost you, me, our whole crew, and a lot of people a lot of money by who the hell is this guy?
And I'm going to tell you there's one team, and it feels kind of funny to say this, but I really think early on they're being disrespected. And that's that team in Philadelphia. I think they're being overlooked.
Quite possibly. Brought on a lot of Philly bro. I mean, Nick Sirianni, like, dude looks like a Jersey Shore cast-off reject. But I agree with you. We haven't heard a whole lot. I'm very interested to see what happens Friday night. I'm not going to put a whole lot of stock into it, to be honest with you. going all the way over to Brazil to play a game, first game of the season. But, you know, there's Philly. Obviously, there's Dallas. Outside of that, we get into some thinner waters, if you will. But, like, I think the NFC is way more compelling because just looking on paper, and obviously we don't play the games on paper, we know that. But the Niners have the best player at 7 different positions. The pressure's on them. They have an easy start to the season. They have a really tough stretch late, but everybody kind of does this year. The NFC, I think, is going to be must-see TV across the board. You've got the interest in Chicago, the Hard Knocks, you know, fanfare, recency bias. But, you know, I was interested to see how you guys went with the NFC. People can say whatever they want about my NFC pick. It's fine. They're a wagon. It's hard to argue. But can they get over the hump? I mean, they've gotten to the doorstep. Patrick Mahomes has been in the way. The Ravens is this. I think it, as it is every football season, massively compelling. I think the NFC West is going to be a lot better than anybody thinks it is. And I actually think that's a help if you're a Niner backer or have a futures bet on the Niners. I think the NFC West is going to be way better than anybody thinks. The Cardinals are coming up. I think Mike McDonald's going to do some things in Seattle that nobody expects. What are your thoughts on the NFC side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. There's a lot of teams that, you know, you could pencil in. I mean, even Dallas. Let's be honest. All jokes aside, you know, the whole, you know, my wife sent me a joke the other day about what's the difference between Chick-fil-A and the Dallas Cowboys. You know, that they don't show up to work on Sunday, which I thought was kind of funny. But listen,
I actually haven't heard that one.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I mean, the Cowboys are still going to be good. I mean, the Bears, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sold yet. I mean, you just look up and down. I mean, there's 2 or 3 teams, I think, in each division in the NFC that could, like you said, in the West. I mean, let's not forget the Rams. If the Rams can figure it out a little bit on defense, their offense is as good as there is in football. So, it's not an easy go for the 49ers. That's a tough division.
No, tough division. And then you get a stretch later in the year where you've got a Sunday night game in December in Buffalo. I mean, we'll obviously get into it more as we get forward. But let's talk about the matter at hand. Yet again, we start the season at Arrowhead, and the Kansas City Chiefs with defending Super Bowl champions. And the interesting thing, some of the chatter cracks me up. It's the first week of the season. Is there a blueprint for Baltimore? Is there a blueprint for Kansas City after tomorrow night? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But it's more the Lamar Jackson has to beat Patrick Mahomes argument, I think, is very interesting. And he's 1-4 against Mahomes. We know Lamar dominates the NFC. He can't beat the head of the class, if you will, in the AFC. Do you think, because I know I do, Lamar has to win this game against Patrick Mahomes, or that one time he beat him is just kind of a fluke?
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, everything that I've read so far and heard, he's really had himself a really good offseason. He's got himself physically prepared, you know, because last year he didn't have statistically a great season. He had a good season, but not statistically a great season. And I think he realizes that. I think he realizes that if he is going to be put in that upper echelon of quarterbacks, he's got to win this type of game. And yeah, I know it's week 1, but this is the type of game that they have to win. And listen, if Baltimore is going to do what I think they're going to do, they're going to take care of business in week 1.
Yeah, Kansas City -3 as of right now. 47.5 is the total. Obviously, that line's going to continue to move a little bit. For me, when it comes down to the Ravens side of things, when I looked at kind of their offseason, and I love the Derrick Henry addition to the Ravens, and they've got some great skill players. You talked about them when you previewed the Ravens. But when I look at the loss of Patrick Queen, and I look at the loss of Geno Stone, and I look at the loss of Jadeveon Clowney, and we know it's the Ravens. It's been a plug-and-play defense. Those 3 losses on the defensive side have me a little bit more worried about what they're going to do. Still don't know if I trust their offensive line. And again, like, Lamar can beat up on the NFC all he wants. The problem is you can't beat up on the NFC till you get to the Super Bowl. I don't necessarily know if he has to have it, especially in week 1. I think it goes a long way for confidence. And you know, as a former athlete, like, you can already be up against the 8 ball before you step on the field. Lamar's a confident guy from what we know. Obviously, don't personally know him, but it's very interesting that they went with this game first. Obviously, there's side storylines, rematch of the AFC Championship game. We know the Ravens win a Super Bowl every 10 years, so technically this would be 10 years. I just don't know if I can sit here and go in week 1, he has to have it. It's a confidence builder. Sure it is. Of course it is. But in week 1, I mean, we saw what happened last year. What happened to the Chiefs in week 1? Where did we finish the season? Right down the road from you with the same damn result. It's Absolutely. Week 1.
I know, but I still think there's something to it. I mean, they're going to start looking at these signature wins for Lamar, and he's got to get them. Like I said, especially, I guess, listen, it's a tough thing. I was watching this morning. They were talking to Bill Belichick this morning about what it's like to play in that game. And he was talking about all the distractions. You got, bands playing and Super Bowl trophies on the field. It's a hard thing to do. If Baltimore is going to be able to go and beat Kansas City, this is the way that they're going to be able to do it, because Kansas City is going to have a lot of distractions in this game. This is one that I think that Baltimore really needs to take care of early on.
Mac may be leaning towards a pick. We'll have the triple option tomorrow about 2:30. Our 3 best picks from the game on all our social channels. Again, tag a friend, tell a friend. The interesting thing from a betting standpoint, before we talk specifically about the Chiefs, last year against the spread, the Ravens 12-7-0, the Chiefs 13-7-1. 15-6 were the Chiefs, 14-5 were the Ravens, 2 evenly matched teams. I don't put a whole lot of stock into against the spread numbers from a year before. There's too much turnover, but it's going to be interesting. I've been eyeballing the line. I've got my leans, but yeah, a lot of stuff. And speaking of those Chiefs, the three-peat, we haven't seen it. We've seen some teams get close. Obviously, the Super Bowl hangover thing doesn't really apply to the Chiefs, because if it did, they wouldn't have gotten where they got to last year. They started slow. We know they did. TJ, when he previewed the Chiefs, he talked about the changes in the personnel and the coaching staff. But I think the thing he said is the most amazing thing. We know about Kelsey. We know about Mahomes. The plug-and-play mentality of, oh, Tyreek Hill's gone. No big deal. Let's just throw somebody else in. And they've got some dangerous weapons. Xavier Worthy, I cannot wait to see playing that Chiefs offense this year.
It's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, again, it seems like the more distractions that this Kansas City team gets, the better off that they are. They just seem to rise to the occasion. So, it's one of those things, they've been through it now 2 years in a row. I mean, they know how to handle all of this. And that's a big thing. And like I said, their first couple of weeks, they've got Baltimore. They got Cincinnati in week 2. They got Atlanta. They got the Chargers. It's a pretty good start to the season. I mean, like you said, maybe they don't really care about the beginning of the season. Maybe they all care about, I just got to get in. They took care of winning on the road last year, right? Everyone questioned them. Can they win on the road? We know they can win on the road. Maybe they're not worried about the beginning of the season. Like I said, get to where they need to be, get into the playoffs, and figure once they get into the playoffs, they know they're going to win.
You talked about the beginning of the season schedule for them, and then in week 6 they get a bye. Week 7 they're at San Francisco coming off of a bye. I mean, you can't set that up any better. Super Bowl rematch. Then they're at the Raiders, and then we've got some lighter loads on the schedule. But then there's the game at Buffalo in there. There's a game at Cleveland late in the season, and obviously they play the teams they play within their division. They've also got Houston. That's at Arrowhead. They do have to go to Pittsburgh late in the year, which, depending on what we have from Pittsburgh at that point, it's an interesting setup there. And I think TJ nailed it at the end. Hey, until somebody beats them, they're the team to beat. I mean, cool, call them Captain Obvious, but it's the reality of the situation. And you feel, as from a betting standpoint, like an idiot ever going against Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
obviously that hasn't worked out well for anybody that's done it too.
Yeah, and like you said, again, they're not a team that worries about if they have a bad game, and you don't have to worry about them if they do have a bad game. They're going to bounce back. So they're going to have a couple of weeks in there where they don't play well, but they're not. Again, they're not worried about that. They've been down this road before. They know how to handle it. They always bounce back well. I mean, this is a good veteran team. They, like you said, they've walked the walk. They talk the talk. They're going to be all right.
Yeah, and the additions of, if he can stay healthy, Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, as most of us know him. I mean, if he can stay healthy, huge. You've got Xavier Worthy, as we talked about, Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, they're loaded. They're not plugging and playing with no names either. Worthy is the guy I think is going to be the most fun to watch in that offense. So we'll get a little more into that as we go down the road. Again, this is our kickoff preview. Thank you to anybody that is here with us. Tag a friend, tell a friend. We appreciate all the support to this point. We've got some fun new stuff coming on. Not only more of these during the season, we've got all kinds of stuff. You've seen Dollar Dingers. Hopefully not lately because we've been on a slump, but we've got a football version of Dollar Dingers, Mac, and I'm really excited for this one. 5 for 500 will debut on Saturday night. We're going to pick a quarterback, a receiver, and a running back and try and get the total to 500 yards, 3 for the quarterback, 100 for the receiver and the running back. We're already cooking up some good ones. Like we've told you, we don't really play parlays often, but this one's going to be fun. It's a $90 investment. You've got action all day long for the entire season. $5 a week. Simple enough. 5 for 500 is going to be fun. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it. I think the people out there are going to have a lot of fun with it. You got any leans? Maybe an insider lean for your pick this week? Mac gets the running back pick. Do you have anybody that's jumping off the page at least right now for you? I'm not going to make you make it official.
No, well, there's a couple of people that I looked at. This is like me picking the Ravens, to get to the Super Bowl. The guy that I'm looking at is playing against the Steelers this week, and I know the Steelers don't give up a lot of 100-yard rushers, but Bijan Robinson looks really good in the Falcons. I think
we might have to accuse you of being a closet Falcons fan this year.
I might just do that
after you railed them in your video.
You know what? And I'm blaming you because your man crush guy is on that team. It was all you last year with Mr. Penix.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and this year I think it's T-Mac from Arizona. I locked into him. Mike's Man Crush this morning. He was featured on it. Go check that out. But yeah. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, obviously we could sit here and we could tell you that, Patrick Mahomes is going to throw for 300 yards and Christian McCaffrey is going to run for 100 and Tyreek Hill every week is going to be 100. We can keep it simple. We're going to have some fun with it. Give you action across the entire day is the goal. Show you that you don't have to mortgage your house to be able to make a bet on a Sunday. But outside of that, we've got some other fun stuff. TJ's top of the class. That'll be on Tuesdays. We'll take a look specifically at the college football top performers of the weekend. Obviously, there was a lot of good ones last week. And I'm going to say something real quick before we move forward here. Let's be perfectly honest right now. All of you that are saying the U is back. Miami beat arguably one of the worst power conference teams on Saturday. And the Florida Gators were an absolute mess. I said it when I talked about the ACC. The addition of Cam Ward was going to be fantastic. He torched the Gators. Let's pump the brakes. They've got FAMU this weekend. Then they start playing. It's exciting if you're a Hurricanes fan, but let's not do the U is back because Florida is missing in action. Just wanted to throw that out there. TJ's top of the class will take a look from the college side. I know you're excited about this one, and this was kind of your baby and your brainchild. Wednesday nights, as you know, the golf season's done, so Mike versus Mac on Wednesdays takes a little bit of a break until football season's over. Laces out, Mac. Why don't you tell the people about the crazy mind of Vegas Mac and what they're going to see in Laces Out every Wednesday night?
Well, we're going to take a look at a lot of different things. We're going to dive into not just the games that you see on the national television screen. We're going to take a look at sometimes some of the other games, some of the games with some of these little colleges that don't always get all the publicity. I mean, I grew up back east. One of my favorite schools to go watch play was Holy Cross, the Crusaders. That was my team. I wanted to go to Holy Cross and play there. Love the purple uniforms. There's a lot of really good small schools. University of Maine, the Black Bears, they're my other favorite team. We're going to look at some of those small college games and have a little bit of fun with that. We're not going to forget the big boys, but we're going to go into some of those small schools as well.
Yeah, I can't wait for that because I know how your brain works on stuff like that. Also, if part of Laces Out is going to be a, oh my God, did you see that kind of thing as well. So that's on Wednesdays. We're bringing back some of the OGs, the Sunday spread on Sunday mornings. Thursday, we're going to give you a little different twist of Thursday night football, the triple option. We're going to give you a couple player props and a side or total there. We've got Sunday night Mack makes its return again. Mack on Sunday night football, and you've got some killer games on that Sunday night football schedule this year. Some ones that I'm really looking forward to.
It'll be a lot of fun Sunday night. Good matchups. It's always a lot of fun. Kind of as we get into the evening, some of those games can be pretty interesting. Let's just say that.
And if you play the 5 for 500 card right and you follow us, I'm going to guarantee you that there's going to be quite a few Sunday night football games where you're waiting on one thing to complete the parlay there. Monday night Mike, Monday night football, and I get a doozy to start it off. Back in my neck of the woods, original neck of the woods, San Francisco and New York. Can Aaron Rodgers stay on the field for longer than 4 plays this year? I think it's going to be a fantastic game. Obviously, a lot going on off the field with the 49ers, a lot of hype to the Jets. I think it's going to be a fun one to watch. I really think we're staring square in the face of one of the more compelling football seasons we've had in a long time. Mac, you made your picks today. For the people that didn't see the video, lay out your Super Bowl pick for us one more time.
AFC, I think it's going to be the Baltimore Ravens. I just think it's their year. I just like their trajectory. NFC, like I said, takes a lot of failure to become a champion. Nobody's had more failure than the Lions. So I'm looking at Baltimore and the Lions. And Motor City, get ready. It's going to be a nice trip from New Orleans up to Michigan because you're taking home the championship.
Did you ever get your answer to if Lions like Cajun food for those that saw the Lions preview video?
We're going to find out, that's for sure.
Yeah, why don't you go test that theory with an actual lion itself? TJ is not with us today. He's got Detroit as well and Kansas City. He's going with the Chiefs for the three-peat. I went with San Francisco and Cincinnati. Tell me you haven't seen that matchup in a Super Bowl before. I really would, as we talked about a few minutes ago, like I really think this Ravens team can do it. I believe in Lamar. I love the addition of Derrick Henry. I've just got some serious questions on the defensive side of the ball and on the offensive line for the Ravens. So I've got the Chiefs over the Bengals. We know how much I trust Joe Burrow's arm. I think the revamped secondary for Lou Anarumo is going to make the difference for the Bengals. And obviously they're going to be battle-tested coming out of the AFC North. And I think the 49ers are in a position where they understand the desperation and they understand where they're at. Now, granted, they've got a lot of great young players that are locked up for a long time, but they've been so close. It's time to finally push through. And if they don't do it this year, Jordan Love is getting better. The Lions are going to continue to get better. The Bears should improve slowly but surely. We know the Rams are better. I think Mike McDonald, honestly, is a guy that should be in the Coach of the Year conversation, will be in the Coach of the Year conversation. Obviously, he can't be now. They haven't snapped the ball one time, but I believe that fit for Seattle with Mike McDonald is perfect. I think you're going to get back to a little bit of what you saw when the Seahawks came out of nowhere, the brutal, physical, beat you down kind of defense. And I think if they can get Geno Smith back to like halfway to what he was a couple years ago, there's no doubt they've got talent on the offensive side. So a lot of fun stuff. Any final thoughts as we head to the season? Mac, we'll close this out. And your final thoughts heading into the season. What are you looking forward to the most?
Well, I'm interested to see. There's a couple of teams that I'm interested at to see how far or if they can even make the playoffs. A couple of teams that I circled, Nets, Dallas, and the Jets. These are two teams that I think it's a make or break season for them. Both these teams, I think, need long playoff runs. If not, I think some major changes have to happen in both those places.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see. Obviously, we know the contract situations in Dallas, not only for one Mike McCarthy, but Dakota Prescott as well. The Jets, I mean, that's another one. And, there's probably not a bigger fan anywhere of Bobby Saleh than the guy you're talking to right now. It's going to be fantastic watch. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming up. Again, he is Vegas Mack. I'm Mike. TJ not with us soon. We will talk to you later. Enjoy the night before Christmas, all.